Tonight, Joe Biden's beliefs.
Being raised as a Catholic and educated by the nuns, I thought it was a good omen.
The dichotomy between faith and politics, and uncovering a new debate.
Be a patriot.
The former VP's call for a national mask mandate.
At every turn, Biden has been wrong about the virus.
And the presidential pushback on face coverings as schools across the country reopen.
You want to open the bars or you want to open the schools?
Plus, giving peace a chance.
I'm saying take a deep breath and let us work through what we've just begun.
An interview with a U.S. ambassador to Israel in the wake of a historic agreement in the Middle East. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. Campaign 2020 just days away from the Democratic and Republican conventions. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm John Jessup. Well, faith has played an important role in American politics since our founding. It will again this November, not just as a campaign issue or as a way to describe either party's base of support, but by the faith of the candidates themselves. Ahead of Monday's start to the Democratic convention, the DNC's Twitter account released a new video with former Vice President Joe Biden describing a 2016 meeting with the Pope and a group of nuns, which is putting Biden's faith back under the microscope.
I just walked out the side door of St. Peter's Basilica after a meeting and getting an opportunity to shake hands and have a brief conversation with Pope Francis. The first people I saw were a group of nuns who, to me, epitomize everything Pope Francis talked about in his homily and what he stands for. About generosity to other people, about reaching out, about making it a point to understand that we are our brother's keeper.
Some see Biden's moral convictions as a political contradiction since he's pledged to reinstate the Obamacare contraception mandate and deny a religious exemption to the Little Sisters of the Poor. That would require the nuns to provide contraception in their health care coverage plans. Well, the scrutiny comes as pro-life Democrats urge the Biden campaign and the DNC platform to move to a more moderate position on abortion. Democrats for Life sent a letter to Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and party platform leaders, signed by a group of 100 well-known Democratic politicians. The letter states that extreme positions on abortion violates the party's own commitment to inclusivity and diversity. And here now for more on that letter, Kristen Day, Executive Director for Democrats for Life. Kristen, thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me on today.
Well, Kristen, why did you as an organization feel compelled to send this letter?
We felt compelled to send this letter because the Democratic platform has really changed and evolved over the last, two election cycles to one that really embraces abortion and is very exclusive and saying that, well, that only those who support abortion should be allowed to run and be in the party. And we think that's wrong.
Are Americans' attitudes about abortion shifting, and should the Democratic Party platform reflect that?
Right, it makes no sense to go more extreme on the issue of abortion when majority of Americans do want to see reasonable regulation and restriction of abortion. Majority of Americans don't support late-term abortion. So our message to the Democratic Party is, we want to save our party. We want our party to be a big tent, inclusive party that respects the positions of those like me who don't support abortion and want to see fewer abortions. So we were just sending that message that people like me should be included in the party.
Why do you, Kristen, believe that the party as a whole is taking what you're describing as the more extreme position on abortion?
Well, the abortion lobby has become very well funded, very strong, and has become very involved within the party structure. And so it's up to the pro-life Democrats to organize and become involved and try to take the party back. Over the last several months, I have seen just an unprecedented growth within our organizations of young pro-life Democrats coming out to saying, how can we support you? How can we advocate for the pro-life position within our party? So on the one hand, this extreme platform language is very disappointing, but on the other hand, it's exciting for me to see all this new activism and people really wanting to save the party from itself.
Kristen, what do you believe is fueling that growth, particularly among the young people that you said are coming into this part of the party?
Right, I think the younger generations tend to, as my sign says behind me, pro-life for the whole life. We want to protect those who need assistance. I mean, they're the ones out there who want to support immigrants. You know, they're out there really wanting to promote this whole life activism. And I think they see our organization as an alternative. When they're told, when they're pro-life, they automatically are told that they should be Republicans. But when they see our organization, they see more of a home for them with this consistent message of protecting, supporting pregnant women, supporting children, advocating for families, and the environment and the families at the border. So it's a bunch of those things really attract the young people to our organization. And it's, as I said, very exciting to see this growth.
Kristen, what you're saying dovetails nicely into this next question. The Biden campaign has been doing a lot to reach out to people of faith, but does Biden's political position on abortion throw a wrench into things for faith-based voters who might otherwise vote for him as a man of faith?
Yeah, it's very concerning for especially pro-life Democrats, because we know that he is a man of faith, Vice President Biden. So it's so disappointing to see him really embrace this extreme abortion position when, you know, we're looking, a lot of pro-life Democrats want to vote for Biden, but he needs to reach out and say, I want your vote and I'm willing to do X, Y, and Z. Make a commitment to opening the big tent, eliminating the litmus test, having, you know, a pro-life desk within the DNC, have a pro-life caucus, try to look at these districts where pro-life Democrats can run and win. So there's a lot he could do to attract the pro-life Democrat vote, but he has not done that yet.
Kristen, if he fails to do that, is there room for pro-life Democrats like yourself within the party? Do you feel yourself being crowded out of the party, perhaps?
You know, on the one hand, yes, but on the other hand, when you look at the, you know, over 100 Democratic elected officials around the country who signed this letter, who agree with me, you know, it doesn't feel so lonely when you see these elected officials willing to stand up and say enough. So again, I think this letter is encouraging too. There's a lot of good things happening for the pro-life Democrat movement. And, you know, as I said, we want to save our party. We want people to actively look to pro-life Democrats as a strong voting bloc. And people need to reach out and say, we want you to vote for us.
Kristen, real quickly, too, just one word. Are you planning to be at the convention?
Yes, I'm headed to Milwaukee on Sunday. We actually have people on the ground as we speak. They're out there with the pro-life for the whole life signs and advocating for pro-life Democrats and showing that we are a force to be reckoned with and we need to be listened to.
All right, Kristen Day with Democrats for Life, thank you so much for being with us.
Sure, thank you so much.
Well, to the latest on the coronavirus, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reports the total number of COVID-19 cases is now at more than 5.1 million here in the United States. The total number of deaths, more than 165,000. CBN reporter Mark Martin joins us now. Mark, I understand the CDC is out with a pretty sobering forecast.
That's right, John. The Centers for Disease Control also predicts up to 200,000 Americans could die from COVID-19 by Labor Day. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump fires back after Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden recommends a mask mandate for all Americans. Trump calls the proposal anti-scientific.
Joe Biden urges governors to mandate mask wearing, calling on Americans to be patriotic to stop the spread of the coronavirus.
Protect your fellow citizens. Step up. Do the right thing. Do the right thing.
Biden points to the predictions of health experts that wearing a mask could save 40,000 lives.
Every single American should be wearing a mask when they're outside for the next 3 months at a minimum. Every governor should mandate mandatory mask wearing.
But President Trump disagreed.
Today we saw Joe Biden continue to politicize a pandemic and to show his appalling lack of respect for the American people. That's what it is. At every turn, Biden has been wrong about the virus, ignoring the scientific evidence and putting left-wing politics before facts. And evidence.
Trump questioned if it is within the power of the presidency to issue such a mandate and called it stepping on governors throughout our country.
He wants the federal government to issue a sweeping new mandate to law-abiding citizens. He wants the President of the United States, with the mere stroke of a pen, to order over 300 million American citizens to wear a mask for a minimum of 3 straight months. And he thinks it's good politics, I guess, no matter where they live and no matter their surroundings.
Meanwhile, the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends masks for children ages 2 and up. ABC News reports more than 2,000 students and staff nationwide have been quarantined after in-person classes resumed. Dr. Anthony Fauci told actor Matthew McConaughey on an Instagram Live Thursday that Americans need to make a choice.
You want to open the bars or you want to open the schools?
Multiple outbreaks across the U.S. have been linked to partying without masks and proper social distancing.
But according to ABC News, Dr. Anthony Fauci says in order for schools to open again, communities need to keep their infection rates under 10%. He also warned that temperature checks are not reliable when it comes to screening for the coronavirus. John, back to you.
All right, thank you, Mark. Coming up, the president making news once again on his way out of the White House, what he had to say, and much more when Faith Nation returns.
Come home to the sounds of Southern Gospel from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites like the Gaithers, the Crab Family, and bluegrass sounds like Mountain Faith. So make yourself at home with the all-new CBN Southern Gospel, now available at cbnradio.com.
Meet the pastors who are preaching the gospel in a fresh, fearless way. I'm Roberto Torres-Cedillo. Join me each week for Next Gen Voices. And watch God transform a generation.
Prophecy thousands of years old.
We were called to be a light to the world.
Being fulfilled today. Discover how. Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life. Just call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he have, which color he is. This is what I'm doing.
See how the people of Israel are fulfilling prophecy.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
By sharing their knowledge.
In Africa, in Asia, in South America, in East Europe.
And their love.
This is how we work. This is us.
Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
Welcome back. Tonight, the first guilty plea from a probe into the origins of the investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election. A former FBI lawyer is set to plead guilty to altering an email that was used to justify the surveillance of a 2016 Trump campaign advisor. In an application to renew a warrant to monitor Trump campaign worker Carter Page as an agent of a foreign power, Kevin Kleinsmith pointedly did not disclose that Page was also a CIA source.
A corrupt FBI attorney who falsified FISA warrants in James Comey's very corrupt FBI is expected to plead guilty. You probably heard that. It just came out. So that's just the beginning, I would imagine.
The president today praised the latest development in a probe led by U.S. Attorney John Durham under the direction of Attorney General Bill Barr. Well, joining me now for what will undoubtedly be tremendous analysis and keen insight is David Brody, CBN Chief Political Analyst. David, always great to see you. How are you?
I'm doing great, John. Nice Friday introduction.
There you go. It's a Good Friday introduction. Well, to that expected guilty plea we just talked about, President Trump certainly feeling some degree of vindication here. David, how big of a deal is it? Where is this headed? And do we have the makings of a possible October surprise?
Well, it's not a huge deal. I mean, it's a trickle situation, which, of course, Donald Trump and Republicans hope there's a couple more trickles after this one. So ultimately, I don't think this is going to be this huge deal. I will say this. They, being Trump and this administration and Republicans, better hope that Durham's got more in his bag than just this. If not, it's going to be a big dud.
David, President Trump is taking heat for promoting a lawyer who questioned Senator Kamala Harris's eligibility to be vice president. It's reminiscent of the Obama birtherism question Trump fueled for years. Does he think it's going to work again with Senator Harris?
Well, John, I like you, by the way, though I do want to say, you know, like how I preface this answer with I like you, but I want to push back a little bit on this idea about birtherism. Look, that is a line coming from liberals and also in the media. This has nothing to do with birtherism, nothing to do with birtherism. This has to do with the Constitution. This happened to Ted Cruz. It happened to John McCain. It's now happening to Kamala Harris. It goes right to the 14th Amendment. And once again, we're talking about a natural-born citizen. And once again, she is a citizen of the United States. There's not a question about that. However, there's a comma in there, and this is where lawyers start to get crazy. The comma, subject to the jurisdiction of, those key words. This has been argued since the beginning of lawyerly time. And David, that's what this is about. It has nothing to do with birthism. I'm
going to interrupt you here because even Lindsey Graham weighed in today saying there's plenty to pick apart from Kamala Harris's record. He ended by saying under the Constitution and Supreme Court precedent, she is unequivocally an American citizen.
Right, and I'm not saying that she's not, but please understand, that's not what I'm saying, John. What I'm saying is that lawyers have argued this on both sides from a constitutional perspective. Just look it up. I mean, Google, and not you, but our viewers, Google Ted Cruz and John McCain. When it comes to the 14th Amendment, the key words subject to the jurisdiction of have been key words in all of this. And I will say this, Newsweek, who published John Eastman, who's, by the way, a born-again evangelical who resided at Chapman University, they are even saying, Newsweek is saying that that's why they published it to begin with, because it's a constitutional issue that has nothing to do with birtherism.
David, real quickly, we only have half a minute left. Next week begins the DNC. What is it that you're going to be looking for? What is it that Democrats need to accomplish next week with the nomination of both of their full ticket?
Well, just real quick, John, the Democrats are on their way to a good convention because AOC's got 60 seconds, and that's probably 60 seconds too much next week. They need to keep her in the basement with Joe until November 4th. There's no reason right now to hear from AOC. Right. Michelle Obama, Bernie Sanders. Those are the key people to watch next week.
Chief Political Analyst David Brody, thanks so much. Hope you have a great weekend.
You too, John.
When we come back, what President Trump's point man to Israel told CBN News about the once-in-a-generation shot at peace in the Middle East.
Too often, we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? You can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5, Wednesday night at 9:30.
Tikkun Olam.
This is our nature as a country.
To make the world a better place.
Literally, we felt the earth shaking.
The Christian Broadcasting Network presents To Life, how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
This film needs to be seen by everyone.
I was in tears.
Now you can own the inspiring documentary To Life on DVD.
There is blood on our hands if we know and we walk away.
I'm so grateful that this film was made.
To Life can be yours for a gift of $10 or more. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com.
We know that every minute counts to save life.
It'll bless Israel, but it'll also bless all the friends of Israel.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are making the world a better place. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to CBN.com to get your copy today.
Welcome back. One day after its announcement, the historic peace deal between Israel and the United Arab Emirates is sending ripples throughout the Middle East and beyond. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says it's ushered in a new era of peace.
Together, we'll transform the region and forge an even better future for our people. This is a future of peace, a future of security, and a future of prosperity.
The last time Israel signed a peace deal was with Jordan 26 years ago in 1994, and more than 40 years since it agreed to peace with Egypt in 1979. In a CBN News exclusive, the U.S. ambassador to Israel told our David Brody that the historic agreement is a once-in-a-generation chance at peace, and adds no matter what happens, the biblical territory of Israel given to the Jewish people by God is safe. Here's some more of that interview.
Let's talk about that tense issue of sovereignty. And so the position here is what on sovereignty in terms of annexation and sovereignty, and explain exactly how this is going to work.
Sure. Well, first of all, we prefer the word sovereignty rather than annexation. We think it's a more accurate term. If you look at the joint statement that was put out by all three nations, we chose the word suspend. Okay, that word was chosen carefully. The word suspend, if you look it up, means that it's a temporary halt. So to be clear, sovereignty is not off the table, but you can't pursue this enormous opportunity, not just for peace with the Emirates, but what I think will be a much larger opportunity. You can't do it at the same time as you're pursuing the sovereignty. So you have to prioritize. The president correctly is prioritizing peace. He's saying, let's give this a chance. This is once in a lifetime. It's certainly once in a generation. Let's see how far we can go with this. So right now we're putting all our eggs in the basket of trying to advance the cause of peace in the region. Then we're going to see how we can export that to a number of other countries and really change the landscape of the Middle East in a materially better way. And then we're going to do all of that, bearing in mind that we put out a peace plan that contemplates that the Jews who live in Judea and Samaria, the Israeli citizens living in Judea and Samaria, will never be asked to leave their homes. The flags that are flying over Shiloh and Beit El and Hebron and Gush Etzion that are flying over there today, they're going to be flying over there tomorrow and the next day, and we think forever. The UAE, I just want to understand this. Do they believe that this is a suspension, or do they believe this sovereignty issue is gone for good? Because that's important. No, I think the UAE understands that it is temporary. Now, how long that takes, sure, is subject to how things develop. So, from a biblical homeland standpoint, we hear so much about it. Evangelical Jews care about, Orthodox Jews. I mean, you're saying what to them regarding this plan? I'm saying take a deep breath and let us work through what we've just begun, which I think has huge opportunity. And we are not taking the notion of sovereignty off the table. But, whether you're an Orthodox Jew or you're a devout Christian, we all follow the same Bible. And, in Psalm 120, King David, who was the greatest warrior the Jewish people have ever known, what did King David say in the last sentence of Psalm 120? I am for peace, they are for war. And we have to pursue peace as the first initiative. I think we just have to. We owe it to our children and our grandchildren. But believe me, the biblical territory of Israel that was given to the Jewish people by God, that is not in any way being taken off the table. I know you're a devout believer yourself in the Jewish faith. So talk to me a little bit about God's role in all of this, because I know you feel very strongly like, look, you can do what you can do as a person, but ultimately there's someone higher than both of us. Sure. Well, look, God's will be done. That's as certain as the sun shining every morning. God's will be done. We live on this earth with a finite capacity to see the entire picture. We absorb the facts. We do the best we can to make the world a better place, to follow God's commandments, to live a just and moral life. And then, God takes it from there. So we do what we have to do and what we can do, but ultimately I believe that God's will is going to be done.
As it relates to the region itself, you mentioned this. What about cooperation from other states? I mean, are you hoping this deal with the UAE leads others, like, for example, Bahrain? I know the big fish, if you will, Saudi Arabia at some point. I mean, that would be huge, obviously. What's your sense of how this might be a domino effect?
So we've looked at this, and I think the President mentioned it earlier today in the Oval Office. It's an icebreaker. It's a real icebreaker, and from here, not to mix metaphors, but I think the dominoes are likely to fall. Now, who, when, how? There are a lot of opportunities out there.
Coming up, a train squealing down the tracks didn't stop this policewoman from answering the call of duty.
It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
From Washington, D.C., uncompromising stories, interviews, and analysis from veteran journalists David Brody.
Escalating fight.
Jenna Browder.
Chose his words carefully.
Ben Kennedy.
Plan to join him.
And Amber Strong.
For impeachment grows a little bit louder.
Bringing you the political news that matters.
We get out and tell the story of the progress that we're making in this country.
Watch Faith Nation, weeknights at 6 on the CBN News Channel.
We will move the American embassy to the eternal capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem.
As the nations rage, you can stand with Israel.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
Call 1-800-700-7000 and get to life.
This is our nature as a country.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he have, which color he is, this is what I'm doing.
Support Israel in their time of need. Get to Life, now available on DVD. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
And I wish that other people throughout the world could see this side of Israel.
Well, finally tonight, while approaching a train track Wednesday, a California police officer noticed a man in a wheelchair stuck on the tracks. Officer Erica Urea jumped out of her patrol car and hauled the man partway out of his wheelchair before the train barreled by.
As the crossing arms come down, Officer Urea jumps into action. The train horn blaring, getting louder and louder. Just seconds to save this man's life.
The 66-year-old man was taken to the hospital for treatment of his lower legs. Fortunately, he is listed in stable condition and expected to recover. Officer Ria said only one thing went through her mind: when someone needs help, you go out there and help them. Talk about being at the right place at the right time. Thanks so much for watching Faith Nation. Have a great weekend.